Ambassador Elena Vasquez looked out the large window of the space station. She could see stars everywhere, but they did not make her feel calm. Today would be one of the most important days in human history. The station was huge. It floated in space near a planet called Kepler 442b. The aliens had built it as a neutral meeting place. 3 powerful alien races controlled most of the galaxy. They had called humans here to talk, but Elena knew it was not really about talking. Elena walked down the long hallway toward the meeting room. Her shoes made soft sounds on the metal floor. 2 human guards walked with her, but they could not bring weapons. The aliens had made that rule. Elena wore her best blue diplomatic uniform. She wanted to look strong for what was coming. The meeting room was enormous. It had a round table in the center that could seat 50 beings. The ceiling was so high that Elena could barely see it. Everything was made of shiny silver metal that reflected the lights. 3 groups of aliens were already waiting. Elena had studied them for months, but seeing them in person was different. The Zephyrians sat on one side of the table. They looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. Their leader was War Admiral Kethvar. He was 8 feet tall with dark green scales and yellow eyes. Scars covered his face and arms from many battles. The Zephyrians loved war more than anything else. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. Across from them sat the Mindari Collective. They looked almost human, but their skin was pale blue and they had no hair. Their eyes were completely white with no pupils. They could read minds and talk to each other without speaking. Their leader was called Prime Thought Zelenis. When she looked at Elena, it felt like someone was trying to look inside her head. The third group was the strangest. The Vorthak Empire had ruled parts of the galaxy for over 1 million years. Lord Regent Thumos was their speaker. He was very old and thin. His skin was gray like stone and he moved very slowly. But Elena knew he was dangerous. His people had destroyed entire civilizations that had made them angry. Elena sat down at the table. She put her hands flat on the surface and waited. The room was very quiet. War Admiral Kethvar spoke first. His voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. Human, you know why we have brought you here. Your species has been expanding too fast. You take worlds that do not belong to you. You change planets to suit yourselves. You do not ask permission. Elena nodded. We terraform worlds to make them suitable for human life. These are uninhabited systems. We harm no one. Prime Thought Zelenis leaned forward. When she spoke, her voice seemed to come from inside Elena's head as well as her ears. You harm the natural order. You spread like a disease across the galaxy. In just 200 years, you have claimed almost 900 star systems. This is unacceptable. Lord Regent Thumos raised one thin hand. His voice was quiet but somehow filled the entire room. Young species, you do not understand your place. We have watched civilizations rise and fall for eons. You are moving too quickly. You must be controlled. Elena had expected this. Earth's government had prepared her for exactly these words. She kept her face calm. What exactly are you demanding? War Admiral Kethvar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. It is simple. Humans will abandon 80% of your colonies. You will return to your home system and the nearest 50 star systems. No more expansion. No more terraforming. You will submit to Confederation oversight for all future activities. And if we refuse? The 3 aliens looked at each other. Prime Thought Zelenis answered, then we will make you comply. The Confederation controls 40,000 star systems. We have 50 million warships. You have less than 1,000 worlds and maybe 100,000 ships. Do you see the mathematics? Elena did see the mathematics. Every human military leader had run the numbers many times. In a straight fight, humanity would lose completely. The aliens had more ships, better technology, and 1,000 times more experience in space warfare. But Elena also knew something the aliens did not. She kept her expression neutral. How long do we have to consider your offer? Lord Regent Thumos closed his ancient eyes for a moment. 1 standard galactic week. 7 of your Earth days. This is generous. Normally we would demand immediate compliance. War Admiral Kethvar leaned back in his chair. Use the time wisely, human. Study your military reports. Look at our fleet positions. Count our weapons. You will see that resistance is impossible. Prime Thought Zelenis tilted her head. We do not wish to destroy your species. Humans have some useful qualities. You can serve the galaxy better under proper guidance. Elena stood up slowly. She looked at each of the 3 alien leaders in turn. They seemed very confident. They thought they had already won. I will deliver your message to Earth. Our leaders will consider your terms carefully. Good, said War Admiral Kethvar. Be sure they understand the consequences of defiance. We have destroyed species for much smaller violations. Elena walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. The three aliens were watching her with satisfaction. They believed they had just solved the human problem without firing a shot. Before I go, I want to make sure I understand correctly. You are demanding that humanity abandon most of our colonies, submit to your control, and give up our independence. Is that accurate? Completely accurate, said Lord Regent Thumos.
These are not negotiation points.
These are requirements, Elena nodded slowly. Then you have made your position very clear. We will deliver your message to Earth exactly as you have stated it. She paused at the door and looked back one more time. But I want you to remember something. You asked for our answer. Whatever happens next, you requested a response from humanity. Prime thought Zelenis tried to read Elena's mind as she spoke, but the human ambassador had been trained to block telepathic intrusion. All the Mindari could sense was calm determination. We are not afraid of your response, said War Admiral Kethvar. What could you possibly do to threaten us? Elena smiled for the first time during the meeting. It was not a happy smile. I suppose you will find out in 7 days. She left the room without another word. The three alien leaders watched her go. They felt very pleased with themselves. In 1 week, the human expansion would end. The galaxy would return to proper order. But as Elena walked back to her ship, she thought about the sealed orders in her safe. Earth's government had prepared for this exact situation. The aliens thought they knew everything about human military capability. They were wrong. Elena's ship left the station and jumped to faster-than-light speed. She had a message to deliver that would change everything. The aliens had asked for humanity's answer. They were going to get it. As her ship disappeared into the darkness between stars, the three alien leaders began planning the occupation of human space. They had no idea they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. The war that was coming would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. And when it was over, everyone would understand why you should never corner a species that had spent 10,000 years learning how to destroy things. The emergency meeting room deep under Geneva was filled with tension. President Chen Wei-Ming sat at the head of a long table. Around him were the most powerful leaders in human space. They had been talking for 6 hours and no one had good news. Ambassador Elena Vasquez had returned from the alien station 12 hours ago. Her report was clear and frightening. The three most powerful alien races in the galaxy wanted humanity to surrender most of their colonies and submit to alien control. They had 1 week to decide. Let me make sure I understand the situation, said President Chen. His voice was tired. The Confederation has 50 million warships. We have maybe 100,000. They control 40,000 star systems. We hold 847. They have been fighting space wars for thousands of years. We have been in space for 200 years. General Marcus Webb, head of Colonial Military Command, nodded grimly. That is correct, sir. In a direct military confrontation, we would lose completely. Their technology is superior in most areas. Their numbers are overwhelming. President Chen looked around the table. These were the smartest military minds humanity had produced. All of them looked defeated before the war had even started. What about our allies? Other species that might help us? Elena shook her head. I have been in contact with 17 neutral species. They are all too afraid of the Confederation to help. Some express sympathy, but none will risk their own worlds for us. Can we negotiate? Offer them something they want more than our submission? I tried every diplomatic option during the meeting, Elena replied. They are not interested in compromise. This is not about resources or territory. It is about power and control. They see human expansion as a threat to the galactic order. President Chen rubbed his forehead. The weight of 800 billion human lives pressed down on him. Every choice he made would affect the future of the entire species. Admiral Sarah Morrison had been quiet during most of the meeting. She was the head of colonial defense and the most experienced military officer humanity had. Now she cleared her throat. There is one option we have not discussed. Everyone looked at her. Admiral Morrison was 60 years old and had fought in 3 colonial wars. She never spoke unless she had something important to say. Project Damocles, she said quietly. The room went completely silent. Several people looked confused, but President Chen's face went pale. He knew what Project Damocles was. He had hoped they would never need to talk about it. Admiral, that project was classified at the highest levels. How do you even know about it? Admiral Morrison reached into her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder with red seals. Because I was one of the project leaders 20 years ago. Before we sealed it away, she opened the folder carefully. Inside were documents that only 5 people on Earth were supposed to know about. During the resource wars of the 22nd century, humanity developed weapons technologies that were unprecedented. We were fighting over water, food, and energy. Billions of people were dying. Military scientists created weapons so destructive that world leaders agreed to ban them permanently. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the head of military research, leaned forward. I have heard rumors about this. Weapons that could destroy entire continents? Worse, said Admiral Morrison. We developed 3 categories of weapons. First, quantum cascade devices that could destabilize the atomic structure of matter across vast areas. Second, self-replicating nanomachine swarms that could consume any material and build more of themselves. Third, controlled black hole generators that could create gravitational anomalies. General Webb looked skeptical. That sounds like science fiction. Admiral Morrison pulled out a datapad and showed him a video. It was old and grainy, but clear enough. A small device was dropped on an uninhabited island. The island simply vanished. Where it had been, there was now a perfectly smooth crater filled with water. The crater was 50 miles across. This test was conducted in 2187 on Earth. The weapon consumed all matter in the target area and converted it to energy. The island, the bedrock beneath it, everything down to a depth of 2 miles, gone in 37 seconds. The room was deadly quiet. Everyone stared at the video as Admiral Morrison played it again. Why was this technology sealed away? Asked President Chen. Because the world leaders realized we had created weapons that could end all life on Earth. Not just human life. All life. The quantum cascade weapons could theoretically chain react until they consumed entire planets. The nanomachine swarms could spread throughout the galaxy if they ever escaped control. The black hole generators could destabilize solar systems. Dr. Tanaka was taking notes rapidly. Where are these weapons now? Sealed in underground facilities on 12 different worlds. The knowledge exists only in encrypted files that require authorization from the president and 4 other world leaders to access. We swore never to use them. President Chen stood up and walked to the window. He could see the lights of Geneva far above them. Somewhere up there, normal people were living normal lives. They had no idea their entire species might end in the next week. How quickly could we build these weapons if we decided to unseal the project? Admiral Morrison consulted her datapad. The nanomachine swarms could be ready in 48 hours. We maintained small samples in stasis for research purposes. The quantum cascade devices would take 4 days to construct. The black hole generators would need a week. How many could we build? As many as we need. The nanomachines are self-replicating. Once we activate them, they can build copies of themselves and the other weapons. In theory, we could have thousands of devices within 2 weeks. Elena looked horrified. What would these weapons do to the Confederation fleets? Admiral Morrison was quiet for a long moment. The quantum cascade weapons would not just destroy their ships. They would unmake them. Delete them from existence. The nanomachine swarms would consume their fleets and build more weapons from the wreckage. The black hole generators would create gravitational distortions that could pull entire fleets into pocket dimensions. And what would they do to planets? We prefer not to think about that. President Chen returned to his seat. He looked older than he had that morning. If we use these weapons, we become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Every other race would either surrender to us or try to destroy us completely. Yes, sir. That is why they were sealed away. General Webb asked the question everyone was thinking. What if the Confederation learns about these weapons and tries to destroy Earth before we can use them? Admiral Morrison smiled grimly. Sir, they already know something is wrong. Our intelligence services report unusual activity in their fleet movements. They are positioning ships for an invasion, but they are also keeping their main fleets further from human space than normal. They suspect we have hidden military capabilities. President Chen called for a vote. All in favor of unsealing Project Damocles. Every hand went up. Even Elena, despite her horror, raised her hand. They all understood the choice. Submit to alien rule or become something the galaxy had never seen before. Dr. Tanaka, you will lead the technical teams. Admiral Morrison, you will coordinate deployment. General Webb, prepare our regular forces for what comes next. Elena, You will return to the station in 6 days to deliver our response. As the meeting ended, President Chen stopped Admiral Morrison. Sarah, do you think we are making the right choice? She looked at him with eyes that had seen too much war. Sir, I think we are making the only choice. The aliens gave us an ultimatum. They forgot that humans do not respond well to ultimatums. What do you think will happen when we show them what we can do? Admiral Morrison gathered her classified files. I think, sir, that the galaxy is about to learn why humanity spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of warfare. And I think they are going to regret forcing us to remember those lessons. Ambassador Elena Vasquez returned to the neutral station exactly 7 days after she had left. But this time she was not alone. 12 human ships escorted her vessel. The aliens had never seen ships like these before. They were smaller than typical human warships, but they hummed with energy that made alien sensors go crazy. Strange lights flickered along their hulls. Space itself seemed to bend slightly around them. War Admiral Keith Varr watched the human ships approach through the station's main viewing port. Something was wrong. His sensors could not properly read the energy signatures from those vessels. His military instincts told him to be careful. What are those ships carrying? He asked his technical officer. Unknown, sir. Our scanners cannot penetrate their hulls. The energy readings are unlike anything in our database. Prime Thought Zelenis tried to probe the minds of the human crews, but she found only empty space. The humans had learned to block telepathic contact completely. I cannot read them, she told the others. Their minds are shielded. Lord Regent Thumos studied the approaching ships with ancient eyes. In a million years, he had seen many species try to bluff their way out of impossible situations. Usually, it was pathetic. Let them come, he said calmly. 12 ships cannot threaten the combined might of the Confederation. The human is probably bringing some new diplomatic proposal. But when Elena entered the meeting room, she did not look like someone who had come to surrender. She wore the same blue diplomatic uniform, but her expression was completely different. She looked confident, almost dangerous. Honored representatives, she said as she took her seat, I have delivered your message to Earth. Our government has considered your terms very carefully. War Admiral Kethvar leaned forward eagerly. Excellent. We assume you have come to formalize your surrender and discuss the details of human withdrawal from your illegal colonies. Elena smiled. It was not the polite diplomatic smile she had used a week ago. This smile made the aliens uncomfortable. Actually, no. We have come to present a counteroffer. The 3 alien leaders looked at each other with confusion. Prime Thought Zelenis spoke first. Counteroffer? You are in no position to make demands. You have 1 week to comply with our requirements or face destruction. Elena nodded. Yes, about that. We have decided your original offer was unacceptable, so we are presenting new terms. She activated a holographic projector in the center of the table. A 3-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, showing human space and Confederation territory. The Confederation has 72 standard hours to withdraw all military forces from a 500 light-year radius around human space. You will issue a formal apology for threatening human sovereignty. You will pay reparations for the economic damage caused by your ultimatum, and you will recognize human independence permanently. War Admiral Kethvar stood up so quickly his chair fell over. You dare make demands of us? Are you insane? Elena continued as if he had not spoken. Failure to comply with these terms will result in appropriate defensive measures. Lord Regent Thumos laughed. It was a dry, rasping sound like old bones rattling. Young human, do you understand mathematics? We have 50 million warships. You cannot threaten us with 100,000 obsolete vessels. You are correct that you have superior numbers, Elena agreed. However, you are operating under some incorrect assumptions about human military capabilities. She touched a control on the projector. The galactic map disappeared and was replaced by a new image. It showed a star system at the edge of human space. 8 planets orbited a yellow star, including a large gas giant with 17 moons. This is the Kepler 1649 system. It is uninhabited and was used for one of our recent military tests. Elena touched another control. The image changed to show the same star system, but now it was completely different. Where the gas giant and its moons had been, there was now only empty space, not debris. Not an asteroid field, nothing. The test was successful. The 3 alien leaders stared at the image in silence. Prime Thought Zelenis was the first to speak. What happened to the planet? We removed it. War Admiral Kethvar's military mind immediately focused on the implications. What weapon could completely destroy a gas giant without leaving debris? Elena touched the projector again. A new image appeared showing technical data that meant nothing to the aliens. Energy readings that broke their understanding of physics, weapon signatures they had never seen before. The planet was not destroyed. It was deleted. Our quantum cascade device unraveled the atomic bonds holding the matter together and converted the entire mass to energy. The process took 14 minutes. Lord Regent Thumos leaned forward. For the first time in centuries, he looked genuinely concerned. You are claiming you can delete planets? We are not claiming anything. We are showing you what we did. Elena activated a second image. This one showed a battle in space. A single human ship, barely the size of a corvette, was facing a fleet of 200 vessels. The alien leaders recognized the ship designs immediately. Those are Confederation patrol ships, said War Admiral Kethvar. Correct. They were conducting unauthorized surveillance in human space. We asked them to leave. They refused. On the holographic display, the battle began. The human ship moved unlike anything they had ever seen. It seemed to teleport from place to place, appearing and disappearing instantly. When it fired its weapons, the alien ships did not explode. They simply vanished. The entire battle lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, all 200 Confederation ships were gone. The human vessel was undamaged. Where did our ships go? Asked Prime Thought Zelenis. The same place as the gas giant. They were deleted from existence. The room was completely silent. The 3 alien leaders stared at the images, trying to understand what they were seeing. Their entire understanding of military power had just been turned upside down. Elena stood up and walked around the table. The aliens watched her nervously. For 200 years, you have assumed humans were weak because we are young. You believed our technology was primitive because we had not been in space very long. You thought our military was small because you only counted our visible ships. She stopped in front of War Admiral Kethvar. You made the same mistake everyone makes when they underestimate humans. You assumed we would fight you the way other species fight, with conventional weapons, using accepted tactics, following the established rules of warfare. Elena returned to her seat and faced all 3 aliens. We do not follow your rules. We never have. When humans face an impossible enemy, we do not surrender. We do not negotiate from weakness. We invent new ways to win. She reactivated the holographic projector. This time it showed star maps of human space, but with thousands of new signatures that had not been there before. These are our actual military assets, not the 100,000 ships you detected. 2.3 million vessels, most of them hidden in pocket dimensions. Each one carries weapons that could crack planets. Prime Thought Zelenis tried to probe Elena's mind again, but all she could sense was absolute confidence. You are bluffing. No species has weapons that can delete matter from existence. Elena smiled again. Would you like us to provide another demonstration? We could delete one of your planets this time, just to prove we are not bluffing. War Admiral Kethvar's warrior instincts told him this human was not lying. Everything about her body language, her tone, her complete confidence suggested she was telling the truth. What do you want? He asked quietly. We want you to leave us alone. We want to continue expanding into uninhabited systems and terraforming planets for human settlement. We want the Confederation to recognize that human space is off limits to your military forces. Lord Regent Thumos had been quiet during the entire exchange. Now he spoke in his ancient voice. And if we refuse your terms? Elena's expression became very serious. Then we will show the galaxy something it has never seen before. We will show them what happens when you threaten a species that spent 10,000 years learning how to destroy things. She stood up and walked toward the door. You have 72 hours to decide. But remember, you asked for our answer. We are giving it to you. As Elena reached the door, War Admiral Kethvar called after her. What makes you think you can threaten the entire galaxy? Elena stopped and looked back at them. Because we are not threatening the galaxy. We are threatening you. The galaxy will be perfectly safe as long as you leave human space alone. She paused at the doorway. But if you choose to fight us, we will not just defeat you. We will erase you so completely that future species will find no trace you ever existed. Your choice. Elena left the room, leaving the 3 most powerful beings in the galaxy staring at images of weapons that should not exist. Outside the station, 12 human ships waited silently, humming with power that bent space around them. The ultimatum had been delivered. Now the aliens had to decide if they were ready for a war against an enemy that could delete star systems. War Admiral, Kethvar looked at the empty space where a gas giant used to be, and realized the galaxy was about to change forever. News of the human demonstration spread through the galaxy faster than light. Within hours of Elena's meeting with the Confederation leaders, quantum communication networks carried the impossible story to every civilized world. On the Zephyrian homeworld of Krax, military commanders gathered in emergency session. General Vextar stared at the tactical displays showing the deleted gas giant system. His staff officers looked confused and frightened. "Run the analysis again," he ordered. "Sir, we have run it 17 times. The energy signatures make no sense. No known weapon can completely convert matter to energy on this scale. The humans somehow deleted an entire gas giant in 17 moons without leaving any debris. General Vexitar had fought in 43 wars. He had conquered 12 species and destroyed hundreds of fleets, but he had never seen anything like this. What about our patrol fleet? The 200 ships that disappeared? Gone, sir. No wreckage, no energy signatures, no distress signals. They simply stopped existing." In the Zephyrian capital city, crowds gathered in the streets. For the first time in their history, the warrior race was afraid. Their leaders had always told them they were the greatest military power in the galaxy. Now they faced an enemy that could make their ships vanish. Across space on the Mindari collective homeworld, something even worse was happening. The telepathic species shared thoughts and emotions with each other constantly. When Prime Thought Zelenis returned from the meeting with Elena, her terror infected the entire population. Millions of Mindari felt her memories of the human demonstration. They experienced her shock at seeing weapons that violated the laws of physics. They shared her growing certainty that humanity could destroy the Confederation if they chose to. The collective mental network that connected all Mindari began to break down. Panic spread from mind to mind like a virus. For the first time in their evolution, the Mindari could not maintain mental harmony. Subthought Naraxis, one of their military leaders, tried to restore order. "We must not let fear control us. Humans are still just one species. We have allies." But when he reached out to touch other minds, all he found was chaos. The entire Mindari population was experiencing collective trauma from the idea that someone could delete matter from existence. On the ancient Vorthak homeworld, Lord Regent Thumos convened the Council of Elders. These beings had ruled their empire for over 1,000,000 years. They had seen civilizations rise and fall. They had watched species evolve from primitive animals to spacefaring powers. Elder Mortanis spoke first. Her voice was even older than Thumos. "In 1,000,000 years we have never encountered weapons like these. The humans claim they can delete planets," said Elder Vorthane. "If this is true, they could destroy our entire empire in days." Thumos showed them the tactical data from the human demonstration. "Our scientists cannot explain how this technology works. It appears to unravel the basic forces that hold matter together." Elder Kithara, the oldest of them all, studied the data carefully. "This reminds me of legends from the early universe. Stories of weapons that could unmake creation itself." "You think these are ancient weapons?" "No, I think humans have learned to weaponize entropy. They have found a way to make order return to chaos." The council chamber fell silent. Even beings who had lived for millions of years were struggling to understand the implications. But the panic was not limited to the Confederation powers. Neutral species throughout the galaxy learned about the human demonstration and began making desperate preparations. On the trading world of Nexus Prime, Ambassador Kelthon of the Alterian Republic called an emergency meeting with his staff. "Are the reports confirmed?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Multiple independent sources verify that humans have weapons capable of deleting entire star systems. The Confederation is mobilizing their fleets, but they seem uncertain." Ambassador Kelthon had been a diplomat for 30 years. He had negotiated treaties between dozens of species, but he had never faced a situation like this. "Send a message to the human embassy immediately. We want to establish formal diplomatic relations. Offer them trade agreements, technology exchange, whatever they want." "Sir, what about our neutrality agreements with the Confederation?" "The Confederation may not exist much longer. I would rather have humans as friends than enemies." Similar conversations were happening on hundreds of worlds. Species that had been neutral in galactic politics suddenly wanted to ally with humanity. They flooded human space with diplomatic ships carrying offers of friendship, technology, and resources. The galactic economy began to collapse. Trade routes that had operated for thousands of years shut down overnight. Entire star systems prepared for evacuation. Stock markets crashed as investors realized that the balance of power in the galaxy was about to shift completely. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Morrison received reports from human intelligence agents throughout the galaxy. The information painted a picture of universal panic. "Admiral, we are receiving over 300 requests for diplomatic meetings every hour. 17 species want to join a defensive alliance with us. The Confederation's economy has dropped 40% in 2 days." Admiral Morrison studied the reports carefully. "What about their military response?" "That is the interesting part, Admiral. They are mobilizing their fleets, but they are keeping them away from human space. It appears they are afraid to get too close to our systems." Admiral Morrison was not surprised. She had expected this reaction when they decided to reveal humanity's true military capabilities. "Any word from the ethereal observer ship?" The intelligence officer looked surprised. "Actually, yes. That is highly unusual. The ethereals have not communicated with any species for over 50,000 years. But they sent a message this morning." Admiral Morrison read the message with growing amazement. The ethereals were ancient beings who had watched the galaxy evolve for millions of years. They never interfered in the affairs of younger species. The message was brief. "The Terrans have weaponized entropy itself. We have observed civilizations rise and fall for eons, but never has any species dared to make war against the fundamental forces of reality. The galaxy will never be the same." "Admiral, what does that mean?" Morrison set down the message and looked out at the stars. "It means we have crossed a line that no other species has ever crossed. We have created weapons that should not exist." Meanwhile, on the Confederation flagship, the 3 alien leaders held an emergency conference. War Admiral Kethvar paced back and forth like a caged animal. "We cannot show weakness. If we bow to human demands, every species in the galaxy will think the Confederation is finished." Prime thought Zelenis was having difficulty maintaining mental focus. The terror from her people was affecting her ability to think clearly. "Perhaps we should consider their terms. If they truly have weapons that can delete star systems," Lord Regent Thumos interrupted her. "We cannot surrender without a fight, but we also cannot risk the destruction of our civilizations." War Admiral Kethvar stopped pacing. "What if we attack them with everything we have? All 50 million ships at once. Even with their new weapons, they cannot fight our entire fleet." "And if we lose?" asked Prime Thought Zelenis. "Then at least we die with honor instead of living as their servants." Lord Regent Thumos considered the options. In a million years of leadership, he had never faced a decision like this. "There is a third option. We could test their resolve. Send a smaller fleet to probe their defenses, see if their weapons are as powerful as they claim. That could start a war that destroys half the galaxy," warned Prime Thought. "Zelenis, the alternative is surrendering to a species that has been in space for only 200 years. As the 3 leaders debated, reports continued to pour in from across the galaxy. Panic was spreading to every inhabited world. Some species were already abandoning their home systems and fleeing to the far edges of the galaxy. The Confederation had given humanity an ultimatum 7 days ago. They had expected quick surrender or easy victory. Instead, they had created a crisis that threatened the foundation of galactic civilization. On Earth, President Chen Wei-Ming received hourly updates on the situation. The aliens had 60 hours left to respond to human terms. Every minute that passed brought the galaxy closer to a war unlike anything it had ever seen. Dr. Yuki Tanaka reported that the quantum cascade weapons were fully operational. The nanomachine swarms were ready for deployment. The black hole generators were charging their exotic matter cores. Humanity had spent 10,000 years learning how to destroy things. Now the galaxy was about to discover what that knowledge could accomplish when applied to interstellar warfare. The countdown continued. 60 hours to decision. 60 hours before the galaxy learned whether the Confederation would surrender or fight. Either way, the universe would never be the same. With 12 hours left before the human deadline, the 3 Confederation leaders made a decision that would have been unthinkable a week earlier. They traveled personally to Earth. War Admiral Kethvar, Prime Thought Zelenis, and Lord Regent Thumos arrived in a single diplomatic ship. No weapons, no escort fleet. Just 3 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy coming to meet with humans as equals. They expected to land at a military facility. Instead, their ship was directed to a small airport in Switzerland. A simple ground vehicle met them and drove through peaceful countryside to a modest building surrounded by gardens. President Chen Wei-ming was waiting for them in a greenhouse filled with flowers. He wore casual clothes and was watering plants with a simple metal can. The contrast was shocking. This quiet man in a garden commanded weapons that could delete star systems. "Welcome to Earth," President Chen said without looking up from his flowers. "I hope your journey was comfortable." War Admiral Kethvar had prepared aggressive negotiation tactics. He had planned to demand explanations and challenge human authority. But something about the peaceful garden made his warrior instincts quiet. "We have come to discuss your terms," he said simply. President Chen finished watering a row of roses and set down his watering can. "Please sit." There were simple wooden chairs arranged around a small table. The three aliens sat carefully. Everything about this meeting was wrong, according to their expectations. They had come to negotiate with a military power, but found themselves having tea with a gardener. "Before we begin," said President Chen, "I want you to understand something important. We did not want this conflict. Humans were happy expanding into uninhabited systems and terraforming dead worlds. We were not threatening anyone." Prime Thought Zelenis tried to read his mind but found only calm certainty. "You have weapons that can destroy civilizations. How can you claim to be peaceful?" President Chen smiled sadly. "Because we know what those weapons can do. We have used them before on ourselves. That is why we learned to be peaceful." He gestured to the garden around them. "Every flower here grows in soil that was once a battlefield. This entire continent was devastated during our resource wars. Billions died. We decided never to repeat those mistakes." Lord Regent Thumos leaned forward. "Then why did you create such terrible weapons?" "Because sometimes the only way to prevent a war is to be too dangerous to fight. We sealed those weapons away, hoping never to use them again, but you gave us no choice." War Admiral Kethvar struggled to understand. "You could conquer the entire galaxy with such power. Why do you only want to be left alone?" President Chen picked up a small flower and studied it carefully. "What would we do with a conquered galaxy? Rule over species that hate and fear us? Spend our resources maintaining control over worlds we do not want? That is not peace. That is just a larger prison." The three aliens looked at each other uncertainly. Nothing about this conversation matched their expectations. "What exactly do you want from us?" asked Prime Thought Zelenis. President Chen set down the flower and looked directly at each alien leader. "We want you to withdraw your fleets from human space. We want you to stop threatening our colonies. We want the right to expand into uninhabited systems without asking your permission. And in return, we will share some of our defensive technologies with species that agree to join a new alliance. Not the weapons that terrify you, but improved shields, faster engines, better communication systems." War Admiral Kethvar was suspicious. "Why would you share technology with potential enemies?" "Because enemies are expensive. Allies are profitable. We would rather trade with you than fight you." President Chen stood up and walked to a window overlooking the garden. "The galaxy is large enough for all of us. There are millions of uninhabited star systems, countless dead worlds that could support life with proper terraforming. Why fight over territory when we could work together to expand into empty space?" Lord Regent Thumos had ruled an empire for over 1,000,000 years. He understood power and politics better than almost any being alive. But he had never encountered a species that offered partnership from a position of overwhelming military superiority. "What guarantees do we have that you will not use your weapons against us in the future?" President Chen returned to his chair. "The same guarantee we have that you will not use your weapons against us. Mutual self-interest. We benefit more from trade and cooperation than from warfare. But you could destroy us completely if you chose to." "Yes, and you could destroy human colonies with conventional weapons if you chose to. The difference is that we have learned to prefer other solutions." Prime Thought Zelenis probed the emotional atmosphere around President Chen. All she could sense was genuine desire for peace. Backed by absolute confidence in human military capabilities, your weapons, how many species could they destroy? President Chen was quiet for a long moment. "All of them. Every inhabited world in the galaxy. We developed weapons that could eliminate entire civilizations without leaving any trace they ever existed." The garden was silent except for the sound of wind through the flowers. "But we sealed those weapons away for good reasons. Using them would make us the monsters we fought to stop being." War Admiral Kethvar had spent his life believing that military power was the only thing that mattered in the galaxy. Now he was learning that the most powerful military force in history wanted to talk about flowers and friendship. If we agree to your terms, what happens to the Confederation? It continues to exist. Your 3 species can maintain your current governments and control your current territories, but you will recognize human independence and sovereignty, and we hope you will consider joining the new alliance we are proposing. What kind of alliance? President Chen activated a holographic projector built into the table. It showed a map of the galaxy with human space highlighted in blue, the Terran Defensive Alliance. Any species that joins receives protection from external threats and access to improved technology. In exchange, Alliance members agree to peaceful dispute resolution and cooperative exploration of uninhabited space. Lord Regent Thumos studied the proposal carefully. And if we refuse? President Chen's expression became serious. Then you remain independent but separate. Human space becomes off-limits to your military forces. Any attempt to threaten human colonies or expansion will result in immediate defensive action. Defensive action with weapons that can delete star systems. If necessary, yes. The 3 alien leaders requested time to consult with their governments. President Chen granted them access to quantum communication systems and private meeting rooms. He returned to his garden and continued watering flowers while they decided the future of the galaxy. 6 hours later, they had their answer. War Admiral Kethvar spoke for all 3 species. We accept your terms. The Confederation will withdraw military forces from human space and recognize human sovereignty. We also accept your invitation to join the Terran Defensive Alliance. President Chen smiled and shook hands with each alien leader. It was the first time in galactic history that such powerful beings had made peace through choice rather than conquest. 1 year later, the transformation was complete. 347 species had joined the Terran Defensive Alliance. The old Confederation still existed, but as junior partners in a new galactic order. Human technology improved life throughout the galaxy. Improved medical systems extended lifespans for dozens of species. Better agricultural techniques ended food shortages on hundreds of worlds. Advanced terraforming allowed colonization of previously uninhabitable planets. But the real change was psychological. For the first time in galactic history, major conflicts were resolved through negotiation rather than warfare. The fear of human weapons kept aggressive species peaceful, while the benefits of alliance membership encouraged cooperation. On Earth, Dr. Yuki Tanaka sealed away the quantum cascade weapons in even deeper vaults. New weapons that made the original devices look primitive were developed and immediately classified, beyond top secret. As President Chen told his military advisors, peace through superior firepower only works if your firepower stays superior, and humans are very good at making things that go boom. The galaxy had learned what humans had always known. Sometimes the best way to prevent a war is to be too terrifying to fight. But the real lesson was deeper. The most dangerous species in galactic history had chosen to use their power to build rather than destroy. Ambassador Elena Vasquez, now Secretary General of the Alliance, often thought about that first meeting on the neutral station. The aliens had given humanity an ultimatum, expecting quick surrender or easy victory. Instead, they had awakened something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that combined technological innovation with strategic thinking, overwhelming firepower with diplomatic wisdom, and the capacity for total destruction with the wisdom to choose construction instead. The Confederation leaders had asked for humanity's answer to their ultimatum. They had received a reply that changed the galaxy forever. In the deepest vaults beneath Earth, sealed behind quantum locks and guarded by weapons that could crack reality itself, new technologies waited in darkness. Devices that could rewrite the laws of physics. Weapons that could unmake entire dimensions.